Welcome everyone back to weekly weather updates, and in today's video we're going to have the latest from the live radar, from the latest UKV, have a look at the precipitation and the temperature over the next 5 days. So things are going to be turning a lot warmer over the coming days. We will see increased cloud and perhaps some rain, especially in the west, but we're going to see a real push of mild air from the south, and temperatures going to get up widely into the mid-teens by the end of this week, maybe even touching the high teens. And there's a very small chance, slim chance, that we could even touch 20 degrees in a few isolated spots. Now, as I said, there will be a lot more cloud, there will be a lot more rain, and we probably won't see wall-to-wall sunshine like we've seen in quite a few spots, especially in the south, over the past few days. But we will be losing the overnight frost. That's another positive. Just unfortunately will be accompanied by some cloud and increased amounts of rain. Into the longer term, though, we do see a bit of a reversion in that pattern, as it does look like as we head towards the middle of the month, we're going to see cold conditions return, quite a bit colder than what we've seen throughout March so far. It's been fairly pleasant so far through March, a lot of sunshine, but it's still been a bit chilly, especially late through the weekend, especially overnights with overnight frost. It could get much colder, temperatures well below average, perhaps easterlies or northeasterlies pushing in. So mild, warm perhaps over the next 5 days or so. And then into next week, we could see it turning much colder, as we do see easterly or perhaps northeasterly winds starting to develop. So do remember, if you enjoy my videos, make sure you like and subscribe. And remember to follow me on Twitter as well, the link's in the description. Now, if you start on the live radar, you can see a bit of a split occurring at the moment. We do have cloud and rain across the far north and northwest, but it is making very slow progress southwards and actually doesn't make much progress over the coming hours. To the south of that, it's much drier, still plenty of clear skies. And if we put on the temperatures already starting to fall away quite rapidly, especially in the south. You can see where the cities are, temperatures are milder. We are seeing quite significant urban heating going on here. Of course, out in the countryside, temperatures falling away rapidly as we've got clear skies and not too much warmth around from buildings, etc. Those temperatures falling away quite rapidly, well below freezing once again overnight tonight. But those frosts will start to disappear as we progress through the rest of this working week, as we do finally see those southerly winds pushing in. Now, if you go over to the latest UKV now, you can see that weather front slowly progressing in from the northwest. It makes a bit of progress, but eventually disintegrates away through Wednesday morning. Into the afternoon, still looks fairly pleasant, still quite a bit of sunshine around, especially across England and Wales, but further northwards, quite a lot of cloud and precipitation in the way of drizzle still occurring. Eventually, late this week, we see that southerly push. You can see the wind direction shifting. Sunny initially on Thursday, but look what happens through Thursday into Friday. More cloud builds in and heavier showers, especially in the west, but they could transition eastwards as well. The risk of a bit of thundery conditions as well, with these slightly warmer, more humid air masses, that risk does come into play. Through Friday, still rain in the north and the west, but slowly clearing. And you can see into Saturday, a bit more sunshine occurring, especially in the east, and into Sunday as well. Some more sunshine around, but perhaps again, bits and bobs of more cloud, and perhaps some more rain coming in from the south. But of course, with that southerly push, temperatures climb significantly over the coming days. Look at the temperatures. At the moment, the upper air level are starting to warm up, but we've still got a lot of cold air trapped to the surface. It's when the wind really shifts to the south through Thursday, that's where those milder air gets all the way to the surface and fully takes over. And into the weekend, we continue that southerly push and it looks very mild. So not too much a change at the upper air level, but progressively at the surface with more and more warm air around, we do turn much milder. We can see that on the 2 metre temperatures. Overnight tonight, frost quite widely in the far south. Further northwards, no frost occurring, and the northern extent of the frost is slowly shrinking as the milder air starts to take over. Through Wednesday, look at that, temperatures 13, 14 degrees, so a bit higher. And overnight, again, temperatures could drop away, but still generally not too bad. Through Thursday, look at that, temperatures 15, 16 degrees. Really quite pleasant there. And finally into Friday, temperatures, again, a little bit worse in the west, but that's because a bit more thick cloud around. But in the east, we've got a bit more sunshine. 15, 16. Saturday, temperatures not dropping away at all really into the morning. And by the afternoon, look at this, 15, 16, maybe even 17. And finally into Sunday, look at this, by mid-afternoon, widely 15 to 17 degrees, maybe peaking at 18, 19. And it's the odd chance that we could even get to an isolated 20. That would be very pleasant indeed if that did occur. But as I've said numerous times in the past few videos, and again today, it is turning much colder after that, and we've seen increased confidence once again today. A lot more runs showing that colder pattern. So yeah, we are fairly sure that will be occurring. Now you can see at the moment, westerly winds continue. We do see that southerly push later this week. And again, we're kind of in between low pressure, high pressure, and that's why there's an increased chance of rain and, of course, thicker clouds. Unfortunately, yes, turning warmer perhaps this weekend. 19, 20 degrees is a possibility. Widely 15, 16, but it will be a bit cloudier. Will be a bit more in the way of rain. However, into the subsequent days, look at this. High pressure builds to our north, and we see northeasterlies starting to move in. Again, nothing ridiculous initially. The GFS doesn't go amazingly cold, but it does push in that northeasterly, easterly wind for a good few days, eventually falling apart. And then into the second half of the month, we see the westerlies unlock a bit of a oscillating pattern between milder and colder sectors. So yeah, it does look pretty cold initially. Look at that, quite a strong northerly push there, kind of in the middle of next week, but eventually would turn milder and oscillating between those milder and colder sectors. Now, if you compare to the GM, and we continue that westerly push, southerly winds arrive by the end of the week, again kind of in between low pressure, high pressure, which means a bit of a mixed signal in terms of precipitation. And then eventually that high pressure builds to our north, continues to push in northeasterly or easterly winds all the way to day 10. The high pressure is not quite far enough north for us to pull in the very cold air from the northeast, but we do pull in cold air at the surface, and although the upper air temperatures aren't anything insane, if we do zoom into the surface, you can see by day 5 to 7 degrees, overnight towards freezing. So temperatures would be much colder than what they are during the day, and similar conditions overnight down towards freezing. Look at that, 14th of March, 5 to 7 degrees, really not great at all. Now the ECMWF is even colder this evening, by far probably the coldest run we've got today. Now if we do look at it, nothing too abnormal, very similar to the other runs over the next couple of days, but eventually that high does build to our north, and look at this, full-blown east to northeasterly winds, and we do see it persist for a good period of time, continuing to pull in some pretty brisk northeasterlies and easterlies, keeping it really quite chilly through the middle, towards the middle of the month. Again, if we progress beyond the upper air temperatures, look at this, -5 isotherm pushes in, and perhaps even -10 could just drift in for a short period of time. It just keeps it really chilly there into the longer term. Eventually the cold air runs out along that easterly, but nonetheless it does look really quite cold for a good period of kind of 5 or 6 days. And again, if we do zoom into the surface, overnight temperatures well down towards freezing, and by day similar to that GEM run, 4, 5, maybe 7 degrees at best. Really quite chilly there. Would be more reminiscent of what we'd expect in January or February, or just generally during winter, not as we progress into the second half of March. So continue to say, April, May, that's when people start to think, oh, 20 degrees, barbecues, heat waves. You can see by the second half of March, we're still looking pretty cold here from the latest ECMWF. And there is fairly strong confidence in this. If we do look at the latest GFS, you can see the confidence has increased today. You can see we're well above average over the next few days, dropping to average or below average in around 5, 6, 7 days time. And then look at that into the longer range, looking pretty chilly indeed. And you see the upper air temperatures really dropping on quite a few runs, including the operational run down to -5 or lower, looking very cold before you're slowly getting back towards average. But looks like a fairly prolonged below average or significantly below average spell there during the middle third of the month. You can see the dew points are much, much colder during that period as well, indicating that we're going to see frost, very cold overnight temperatures, and generally chilly conditions. The air coming in off the North Sea from a cold direction. Dew points are quite low at the moment, and that's symbolic of cold air trapped to the surface. But you can see they're slowly climbing over the coming days as it does start to turn milder. If you look at the 2 meter temperatures as well, look at this. Rapid climb over the next few days towards the mid-teens. As I said, not quite picking up on the microclimate details, and that's the microclimate effect, as I said, could push it slightly higher than this. There is the risk of it getting, as I said, up towards the high teens perhaps, and then a big drop off next week down to kind of 7 or 8 degrees before it slowly climbs once again beyond that. And if we do compare to the ECMWF, not fully come out yet, but you can see the trend very, very well here. 5, 6, 7 degrees above average over the next few days. Mild, warm. Then look at this, 10-degree temperature drop in the space of about a day or two to going cold once again, down towards the -5, -6 degree isotherm. Again, nothing ridiculous, nothing too out of the ordinary for March. You know, it is a cold spell, but it's no very cold spell. We'd be looking at close to -10 isotherm for a very cold spell. But nonetheless, frosts, cold temperatures by day, very cold feel-like temperature, would feel like close to freezing with the wind coming in off the North Sea, feeling pretty raw. And again, we also have to look at this compared to what we're seeing over the coming days. If it's going to get up to 18, 19 degrees over the coming days, for it to revert down to 6 or 7 a couple of days later, it will feel like a real shock to the system. So yeah, kind of seeing the two halves of spring here. On the one hand, early spring warmth, lots of sunshine. Yes, a bit of rain and cloud eventually, but generally very pleasant. Traditionally, spring-like conditions, what you imagine when we head into spring. And then, perhaps we go back to something more like winter. And that is unfortunate. It's definitely, I'm on the boat now of, I want to see warmth. I want to see some spring sunshine. I want some pleasant conditions. But unfortunately, doesn't always play ball. So yeah, two big conflicting scenarios and got pretty high confidence in them now. But yeah, pretty mild at the moment, warm in fact, and then potentially turning much, much colder into next week. So anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you again for another video soon.